Hey guys, welcome to the Tech Career Booster. My name is Josh Ballardine, and in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about experience. Yeah, one of the three pillars when you are starting as a web developer or as a software developer is actually experience. Everyone is going to ask you experience in any job interview. And today I want to talk about how to build experience as a dev without a job, because it's pretty hard when you try to find a job and they ask you for experience. But then to have experience, you have to have a job. So what's the trade-off here? How are we going to get experience without getting our first job? And I'm going to tell you, there are many ways to actually get that experience. Let's check some of them. You can do personal projects. That's one thing. You also can do open source. You can involve yourself in open source projects. You can collaborate with open source projects. You can do many things related to open source projects, even translating open source projects. That's a good way to involve in that. You can be doing freelancing. You can register yourself in these freelance websites and, do a very cheap job. Don't charge too much. And then you're going to start to gain experience. You can try internships, but it's going to come to interviews and you're going to have a similar problem than actually finding a job. And last but not least, you can actually participate in some hackathons. You can go and enroll yourself and participate in hackathons, get involved with other devs, and try to come up with a solution that specific day. So there are these things and many other things you can be doing to get experience without actually getting a job. But today I want to talk about just one of them. I'm going to focus in one of these ways. And the way I want to focus on is actually personal projects. I'm going to tell you guys how to build the personal project which stands out and make you stand out in the crowd. It's going to make you special in interviews. It's going to make you find the job which requires experience, and you're going to have the experience to show them. You're going to have the experience. They're going to have the credentials to actually come to interview and say, here's my credentials, here's my experience coming from a personal project. And when we say that, the first question you may have is, okay, but as a personal project, what I'm going to build, what I'm going to code? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to code. That's the first question my students come to me when I say, you have to build your experience. You have to have a personal project. My students come back to me and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to build. And even if they know, sometimes they have an idea, they know something they want, then it brings the next question, which is how I'm going to build that. They don't have the path, they don't have the way to build it. You probably don't have that way at the moment. Well, if you ever find yourself with those questions, asking yourself what I'm going to build, how I'm going to build, I'm not confident I can do that. Sometimes people have been studying for a while, but still not confident they can build something. If you are wondering that, if you are still asking yourself that, I want to tell you what is a personal project. And maybe more important than what is a personal project, I want to tell you what's not a personal project. What's not going to give you that experience you and may are looking for. First thing I want to tell you is a personal project is not an unfinished piece of code. If you don't finish that, if you don't publish that, it's not a personal project. It's not a project. You can call that an exercise or something you do in a class, in a course, but it's not a project. It's not a personal project, a real one. And that's the second thing, which is not a real project. It's like a course or class exercise. Some rehearsal, something you do just for training. That's not a personal project. Also, something which is useless. If you build something useless, no one's going to use that. No one's going to actually get involved with your project. it's not a personal project. It's not a project. You have to build something people are going to use. It has to have a real usage in the real world. If you don't find something people is going to use, it's not a project. If it's useless, it's not a project. But also, you should not confuse that with like the brightest idea in the world, or something like rocket science or a space company or whatever. You should not go too far in a personal project. It's also not a personal project. Then we can emphasize the word personal here. Those big ideas, those big things, they are for big companies, or they are for very experienced people. If you are just starting, you're not going to change the world with your first project, or at least not with the first version of that. Over time, once you learn and build over the years, it may become something really big. But at the beginning, it won't be. So don't come up with those weird ideas where you think it's going to change the world, it's going to be different for everything. You're not going to be able to build that. You're not going to be able to deliver that. So that's what's not a personal project. And if it's not a personal project, what is a personal project? You may be asking yourself, okay, I'm still wanting to know what I'm going to build. And I can tell you, a personal project is something which is going to bring you experience, which is going to bring you end-to-end experience. You're going to start and finish the project. So a personal project you can do is a small app, a website, a system, a tool, anything which can actually resolve someone else's problem. That's what software is. If you want to become a software engineer, you have to resolve some problem. If you find a solution for a problem around you, think small. Think in the problems you have. What are the challenges you are facing at the moment? What things you wish you have? Think of any piece of software, any app you may benefit from. Think of people around you, people that surround you. Your family, your friends, colleagues, whatever you are doing as a job at the moment. If you are working in a different career, is there anything in that niche which would be great if you have an app, or if you have a system to do that? So once you have that, once you get that idea, you're going to have a personal project. So if I have to define what a personal project is, it's something you're going to start small, which is going to resolve a problem, and you're going to be able to entirely develop that from the beginning to the end, just yourself, or with a couple of friends, or you don't have to build that just by yourself. You can build that in group, but it's something you or your group is going to be able to start and finish it. And also it's going to be used by other people. That's what software is made for. Software is not made to sit on our computer and stays there. Software is made to be used. That's the purpose of a software. That's the purpose of a piece of code. It's to be used by users. So a personal project you are going to build is something small. You're going to start small. You're going to iterate through that, and you're going to develop that entirely from the beginning to the end. And it has to be deployed. It has to be used by people. It has to be in the real world. That is a personal project. And it's not only me saying that, guys. I want to bring you a quote from Sarah Drasner. She says, building a personal project is the best way to learn. You hit every single problem a senior developer would hit, but you have to find your way out yourself. That's pretty smart. She said that, and it's completely true. You're going to have all the problems any developer are going to have, but you're going to have to find your way out. And that's what experience is. That's what you are trying to build. And you're going to achieve that straight away. And by the way, have you started any personal projects recently? If so, let us know what's that. Leave a comment to us. We want to know. I would love to hear about that. I would love to hear your story. But if you didn't start your personal project, I want to tell you why you need a personal project as soon as possible, ASAP. And the reasons why you need that, if you want to become a software developer, or if you are becoming a software developer, main reason and first reason is you're going to apply all the theory, all the theoretical knowledge you have been accumulating. You're going to apply that to the real world. You're going to apply that to the battlefield. You're going to apply all the knowledge. You're going to solidify your knowledge when you build a project, a real world project. It also is going to bring you, it's going to make your problem solving more accurate. It's going to bring you more problem solving skills. It's going to enhance your problem solving skills, which is one of the most important skills for a software developer. It's a required skill for a software developer, and it's going to enhance your problem solving because you're going to be facing many problems. You're going to be facing many things over that project. It also is going to bring you the full cycle exposure. You're going to be exposed to a full cycle of a project since the beginning to the end. You're going to come from the idea through the planning, through the development and deployment and maintenance of that. You're going to go all the steps through, and then you're going to be able to understand all the cycle, all the steps, how it works. Also, I would say one of the most important things in this project is going to be an evidence of experience. It's a tangible thing you've built. It's an important piece in your portfolio, not just exercise, not just things you've done in the course you have been doing or in the things you have been learning. It's an evidence you know how to do things. You can show that in any job you're going to apply for. You can show in the interview, you can talk to people. You can say, oh, that's my project. I've built that entirely. And to encourage you to start your personal project ASAP, I want to bring another quote. This one is from Wes Bos. He's a full stack developer and an educator. And he says, the projects that I've worked on out of pure personal interest are what propelled my career forward. Every job I've gotten is a result of a personal project I had in my portfolio. And this guy, he's well known in the community. You can find him on Google. You're going to find his YouTube channel. I actually recommend his YouTube channel as well. And he's saying like every single job, every single thing he got is a result of his personal projects, the things he got out of his interest. So you should be doing something out of your interest too. Other reasons to actually start your project: skill diversification. You're going to be needing a way more skills than the one you have your primary expertise. You probably have expertise in one thing, in one coding language and programming language. But to build a personal project, to build something entirely, you are going to have to learn other things, other techniques. You're going to have to learn multiple tools. You're going to have to learn maybe other frameworks, or you're going to have to learn more about the framework we are used to. It's going to diversify your skills. You're also going to build self-management skill. You have to manage yourself to be able to deliver that project. Otherwise, you won't be able to. If you keep on distractions, if you keep on things, you won't be able to build it. So you have to develop self-management. And that's a really appreciated skill for a software developer too. You're going to build your confidence. Most people, when they leave the course, programming course and things, they are not confident they can actually build something. If you build a project, it's going to bring you confidence. You're going to believe yourself. You're going to believe you can build that. It's going to give you feedback. Real users are going to bring you more insights and enhance your project. It's going to bring you network as well. When you share things you are doing, and when you collaborate in some other people projects, and other people can come and collaborate in your projects, it's going to increase your network. It's going to make you well known in the community. People are going to know you, and maybe they offer you a job because they know you are building something, and that's good. You're going to be sharing that. You're going to be showing that to people. So your network is another advantage of creating a personal project. It's going to bring you network naturally. You're also going to be continuously learning. You're going to need to stay up to date to keep your project up to date. So you have to be continuously learning and learning. It's going to bring you decision-making skill. You must be able to decide which technology you're going to use, which architecture you're going to use, what are the design patterns you're going to apply to that. You have to be able to decide on all those things. And that's a huge learn. You have to learn all those things before actually doing your project or during your project. Over the time you are doing your project, you're going to have to learn that. And the last advantage, but not least, I would say it can be one of the most important, is it can bring you monetization potential. You can actually make some money out of that. You may even don't need a job offer later. If you build something people really like, it becomes something bigger, you become your own boss. You won't need a job later. But that should not be your main focus. You should start focusing on experience. That's what you're looking for. You are not looking for a business, probably. If you are looking for a business, that's all right. It's okay. But if you are not, it's okay too. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. But there is a potential in there. You can become an entrepreneur. It may bring you some advantage. I want to tell you a story, but before doing that, I want to bring another quote. This one is from Chris Wanstrath. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Chris Wanstrath. He's a co-founder of GitHub. And he once said, the two most important things you can do as a new developer are to write code and share it with the community. How bright is that? How smart is that? You have to write the code. You have to write your system, your software, your app, and share that. That's going to reinforce all the things I just said to you: networking, continuously learning, visibility, all the skills it's going to bring to you. But let's go to the story I said I want to tell you. I want to talk to you about one guy called Peter Levels. He's the founder of Nomadlist. You may have heard about it, you may never heard about it. Nomadlist is the biggest website for digital nomads. There's a place where digital nomads can find about hundreds of cities in the world. What's the weather in that city? What's the cost of living in that city? How the internet is in that city? Everything which is important for a nomad, for a digital nomad, it is in that Nomadlist website. And Peter Levels, who is the founder of that website, and he also has like a YouTube channel now, he talks about that. He's an entrepreneur these days as well. His background is business. He didn't start as a software developer, but he became a software engineer. When he started, like he finished his degree, his business degree, and he tried to experiment many fields. Like he tried marketing, design. He was doing YouTube videos, about music. He have tried many things. But then at a certain point, he taught himself coding. He learned how to write code. He learned how to build system and software because he had an intention to actually travel the world. He wanted to become a digital nomad. and he wanted to actually work while he was traveling. And the way he found for that was becoming a software developer. He thought if he became a software developer, he could be traveling the world and working at the same time. So he has done that. And then he actually gave himself a challenge. His challenge was to build 12 startups in 12 months. He launched a series of projects and he applied his coding skills to all of those projects. So if we learn from him, you can see like instead of he's doing one personal project, he was doing 12. He was doing 12 personal projects, one after the other, one each month. Why? Because he thought, oh, if I build more, I'm going to have more chance to be successful. So he started 1 month, he built one, next month he built another one, next month he built another one, and then he goes on and on and on. And his story is on the internet. If you look at that, just put his name on Google, you're going to find it. You're even going to find his 12 projects, his 12 startups. But at a certain point, one of those projects stands out. One of those projects was the Nomad List Inception. And that project, that specific one, it started as a Google spreadsheet or Excel spreadsheet. I don't know. It was a spreadsheet. He just published that in Twitter. But he forgot to actually lock that. He forgot to lock the spreadsheet for just him to put content in there. And because it was open for people to edit that, suddenly he realized people were adding more and more cities to that list and putting things about the weather, about costs of living and all the stuff in that spreadsheet. And then the idea came up and said, I can build a website for that. I can build a system. And then he came and he built the system himself from the beginning to the end. He built the platform and he started to put more features in that platform. He put job listings in there, especially for nomads. He put forum in there. He even put a dating session in there. And that's the beauty of that. It was a personal project and he has been iterating to that and making that better and better. At a certain point, that only project became his main focus. His full-time job became that project, that website. And that has been evolution. That was created in 2014. So it's almost 10 years now. And he has been evolving this project and making that better and better. Last time I saw, it was making 700,000 per year in revenue just for that business, and he has many others. So that's just the power of that. That's just for you to understand how powerful is that. And as a side effect, he also became well known in the community. People know him, people respect him as a software developer and as an entrepreneur. That can be you. Why you can't build something similar? You can. Start resolving a problem. If find problems near you, that was a problem he had. He wanted to become a digital nomad and he didn't know about cities. He didn't know information about the place he wanted to travel to. So he was just resolving his problem first. You can do the same. Peter's journey is pretty inspiring. But how about you? Have you ever tried to start a personal project? Many of you may have started that already. Have you tried that? What challenges have you been facing? What experiences have you had from that? Did you have success? Do you want to share with us? Come to the comments below and tell me that. I want to know. I want to know what you are doing, what challenges you have been facing. And especially if you had success, tell me. Tell us, tell all the community. It's important. And for those who didn't start at that, I want to talk about biggest mistakes people do when they started those projects, so you don't make the same mistakes. And I would say the biggest one overall is trying to start with a really overcomplicated idea. try to come up with something too ambitious, too complex, overwhelming to do. It's better to start small, and you can expand that as you gain confidence, as you enhance your skills, you can expand it. But don't start with a really overcomplicated idea or with something really overwhelming to do. If you look at something and think, oh, that's going to be a 3 years project, you can't handle that. You have to deliver something. You have to deliver something valuable, or an MVP, a minimal viable project. Another big mistake is actually skipping the planning phase. Many people start the project, they start coding, they start doing, I want to do that. They get exactly as an exercise in the school. Like when you were learning to code, you got many exercises. People just get that, I want to build whatever. I want to build the nomad list. I want to build a website, then start coding without really planning for that, without really thinking of what they are going to build. They dive straight into coding and they don't have the basics outline of the project. They don't have the basic roadmap, where they want to go, what they want to achieve. What's the minimum features, the minimum functionalities they are going to deliver in the first version? So without that, you don't have a project. You just have something in your mind, but you don't have a project. Another mistake people make is actually ignoring version control. They completely neglect that. They start to code and start to build things and they want to deploy it. But suddenly they start to face problems because they have to revert things back. They start to introduce bugs and they have to fix it. And they don't know the previous code. There's a lot of problems in not tracking your chains. When you are not tracking what you're doing, you can't revert stuff, you can't go back, you can't regret. And that's dangerous. It's very easy to start with Git or with any version control. So put that in your project since the beginning. Don't make that mistake. Another big mistake is actually falling into perfectionism. People trying to get the perfect solution at the first try. Aiming for perfection can stall progresses. It's okay to have an initial version which is imperfect. Remember, the goal is to learn and iterate. Is not to get the perfect solution at the first. You have to learn, iterate, and you're going to enhance your project. So don't try to be perfect at the first time. Another mistake is not having clear goals, clear objectives for the project. You have to define what's the goal, what you want to deliver, what's that project. Another mistake called feature creep. What's that? That's also actually trying to add features and more things and never finishing the project. You're always thinking, I need to do this, I need to do that, just that other feature, just that other thing. Without that, people can't use it. Without that, people can't do that. You should stop creating new features, and at some point, you should deploy your project. Don't make that last forever. Don't make that last the whole life, trying to build more and more and more without getting feedback. And that's another mistake, not getting feedback, not seeking for feedback. If you don't deploy your first version, no one's going to tell you anything. Remember, your project needs to be used by real people. So you have to be deploying that. You have to be seeking for feedback. Another mistake is actually ignoring the user experience. As a devs, we tend to actually concentrate in the code and the functionality and forget the user experience. Front-end devs, they usually focus on user experience, but back-end devs or full-stack devs, they usually don't care about the user experience. Don't make that mistake. User experience is very important. You should be focusing on that in your project as well. And when I say personal projects is going to enhance your experience and it's going to enhance your skills, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that sort of thing. Sometimes it's not your expertise, but that's something you're going to need to do to have your personal project, to have your real project. And that's what the companies want. If you are working for a company, that's what they want to do in their project. If you have that skill, it's better to you. it's better for them. It's a reason to hire you if you have those sort of experience. So again, another mistake, documentation. Most of the devs, they think it's just coding and coding and coding. They do not document anything. You should be documenting goals, experience, challenges you have been facing. If you have a clear documentation about your project, it doesn't have to be like tons of pages of useless thing. It has to be useful, but you have to document especially challenges, how you have been facing challenges and how have you resolving problems in your project. That's going to help you in the future when you have to go back and see what you have done. And that's going to help to prove what you have done to someone else. When you have to show your experience, when someone asks you for experience, that's the proof of your experience. Obviously, one of the proofs is your project running, your project deployed, people using that. That's the main proof. But the second one, when they ask about experiences you had, mistakes you made, challenges you have faced, it's going to come from the documentation. Another mistake I've been seeing people doing is actually not adapting to changes. Sometimes they come up with an idea at the beginning and they try to stick with that up to the end, even when they get feedback, when people say that's not correct, when people say that's not exactly what they want. Some devs, they have a hard time to actually pivot their project and make that to be useful. They think the idea they had at the beginning was useful, and even when they try to deploy that, when they try to talk to people to expose that to the community, and people tell them that's not going to be used, people is not going to like it, they insist in that and they try to deploy that and they try to get stuck in that, and that won't work. That won't be used. That won't be a good project. And the mistake in the other side is actually getting stuck in the learning phase. Some guys, they start to watch tutorials, they start to read documentation from AWS on how to deploy stuff. They start to learn many things about how to create the project, but they forget to actually start it. They keep learning and learning and learning, and they never find themselves ready to start. They never find themselves, okay, I'm good, I have to start the project. So avoid that trick. Don't stuck yourself on learning. Start something right now. Also, don't compare yourself with others. Compare your progress. Don't compare your progress, your project with others. Compare with yourself. Compare that with you from yesterday. Look at you yesterday, look at you today and see, am I better today than yesterday? If the answer is yes, you are in the right track. You are going the right direction. That's the only comparison you should be doing. Another mistake is actually not having a routine for working your project. It has to be fit in your day. You have to find some time to be doing that daily. If you don't have a routine to work on that at least 5 days a week, it's not a project. You have to be working on your project. If you don't work on that, it won't happen. So don't fall in that mistake to not working on your project. It's not going to happen if you don't do that. So fit that in your routine. Take some time, even if it's 1 hour a day. Take some time every day to actually go to that. And the last but not least mistake is actually giving up too soon. Some people start a project, then they start to face problems. And instead of understanding those problems as an opportunity to learn, they understand that's too hard and they gave up. Don't be that guy. Don't be the one giving up too soon, even before having an MVP, even before getting any feedback. If you give up before getting the first feedback, before publishing the first version, you're never going to know. You're never going to have your project. And you're not going to have any of the benefits of having a personal project. If you don't publish that, you can't prove your experience. You don't have the experience. You didn't finish that. So don't give up too soon. So guys, yeah, these are the mistakes I've been observing from my students, from people in the market. But how about you? If you have started your project already and you have been making mistakes, let us know. Put in the comments below and tell us what the mistakes you have been finding. What you have done which was a mistake in your projects. Let us know. Tell us. Tell me in the comments. I'm going to be happy to know. Okay, at this point you may be thinking, all right, but how do I do it? How do I do this project? We have been talking about what is a project, what are the mistakes, why it's important, but you may still asking yourself, how do I start it? How do I do my project? Remember the questions from the beginning? I don't have the confidence. I don't know exactly how to do. I've been learning just one language. I've been learning just one framework. I don't have the entirely vision of a project. I'm going to come up with some step by step. I'm going to bring to you step by step how to do that. And I would say the first step is to choose a simple idea. And remember these words, simple idea. You should be starting with a basic project idea that solves someone else's problem or your problem. You may have a personal need. You may have something around you which you want to solve. A small thing you can solve around you for yourself, for your family, for a partner, for a business close to you. A small thing. Find a simple problem around you to resolve. That's the first step. Once you find that simple thing, simple solution, then you start to clarify the scope. Second step. So first step, simple idea. Second step, clarifying the scope. You have to have a clearly vision of what the project is. What do you want to do and what you won't do? You should be avoiding the feature creep, remember? Remember that mistake people make? You should be avoiding adding in more and more and more features. Starting the first iteration, just resolving one problem, one functionality, one simple thing. Decide what's the core feature, the core functionality of your project and implement that. That's the initial version. So you have a simple idea, then you clarify what's the scope, what's the simple thing you're going to do, what's the simple functionality of your software. Then it's going to come to the third step. What's the third step of your project? It's come up with some sort of design. You have to sketch a basic design. We can use tools like Figma, Sketch. There are many tools to actually just come up with a wireframe, with a rough idea of your interface. What's the user experience? What's going to be the user interface in your system? Remember the mistake? Neglecting the UI, neglecting the user experience, UX. Don't neglect that. Create a basic design. Create a basic thing. Create a basic idea of your interface. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it has to be a visual representation of your goal. It has to represent what you want to try to achieve. And then you can choose a familiar technology, something you are familiar with, the technology you have been learning, the programming language you have been learning. That's going to be your main language, your main framework. Whatever you are more comfortable to be using, that's going to be your architecture. That's going to be the language you're going to be developing, because that's what you have learned. If you want to prove experience, you have to demonstrate experience in whatever you have learned. So that's going to be your main focus technology-wise. And once you become comfortable with that, then you can actually explore other technologies. You're going to need to explore other technologies. Otherwise, you won't be able to deliver a full project from beginning to the end. But start with the one you are familiar with. So remembering the steps, simple idea, clear scope, basic design, familiar technology, something you know, and then it's going to come to the next step, which is starting coding. You're going to start to code the main feature first. Don't start with the unimportant things. Usually we tend to start with the things which are less important, but they are easier. Devs, their mind is usually going to the easiest thing to do, not the most important thing. And that's going to bring us to the agile concept. In agile, we have to always be doing what's most important first, what's most available first. And that's your core functionality. You have to be implementing your core functionality first. So start building your main functionality without worrying too much about the best architecture or the best thing, the best way to do. Just start to build your core functionality. Focus on make it work. And later, you're going to refine that. That's another step. Don't forget to do that later. It's important to have a good architecture. It's important to have a good code, but don't start worrying too much about that. At your first version, it's okay to not have the best architecture. At your first version, it's okay to not have the best code. And as you are coding, you're going to be researching and learning as you go. You're going to be using platforms like Stack Overflow, YouTube, web documents, anything. Don't be afraid to research the concepts you are unfamiliar with. And obviously, these days, ChatGPT is your co-pilot. ChatGPT is your best mate in this way. Not only ChatGPT, any AI tool you can use, GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever. I've been talking about AI tools already. You probably watch some video about AI tool. It's going to help you. It's going to help your project as you were doing. Also, when you're coding, you're going to implement a version control. Familiarize yourself with Git, GitLab, GitHub, what options they have in Git to actually deploy that, the actions you're going to do, the deployment steps. And then you iterate and refine. Once you have the core functionality working, then you go back and refine it. That might be cleaning up your code, that might be changing the architecture, that might be improving the UI, optimizing the performance. You're going to be iterating and learning from the code. And when you get to the point where you think, okay, that's good enough, it doesn't need to be perfect. Even after some iterations, it won't be perfect. But when you think, okay, it's good enough, people can use that, then you should be learning the basics of deployment. At that point, you should be learning how to deploy a project, how you're going to make that available for people to use. You're going to be researching AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, any cloud you can deploy a project. You may be researching about serverless. That's a modern way to deploy stuff. Probably the best way these days. Don't be afraid to follow step-by-step tutorials on how to do that. You can do even with a simple thing, not your project at first. Follow the tutorials, deploy something, then come back and deploy your project. And once you do that, start looking for feedback. Start seeking feedbacks. Advertise your project, tell everyone, go to the community, tell people, this is my project, this is what I've been doing, please have a look at that, please use that. If you have the same problem as I had, if you have this problem, this feature is going to help you. So talk to as much people as you can and seek for feedback. Share whatever you have created. And listen to people. Listen to what they're going to say. Listen to their comments. Listen to their needs. Whatever they ask you, obviously you're not going to be doing everything people ask for, but listen to them. And that's going to bring you continuously learning. You're going to be continually learning about your system, about your project, and you're going to be improving that, enhancing that. You're going to be building other things like APIs. You're going to be integrating your project with something else. You're going to be considering more features. But that's the point where you're going to be considering more features. where people are using that, not at the beginning where you just start building and building and building and never deploy it. It's already deployed, people are already using that. Then you can consider if you should enhance that or not, if you have the time to enhance that or not, if it can give you some money or not. If it can give you some money, then you're going to invest more time on that. And last but not least, don't forget to document your journey. Keep notes of everything. Keep notes of the challenges you have faced, of the solutions you found for that, of the new things you have learned. It doesn't need to be complicated stuff. It can be a Google Doc. But keep track of that. There are tools specific for that. I prefer to use Jira and Confluence. So Jira for tickets, for history of things, and Confluence for having like more explanations and ideas of things and explain how things work, like tutorials and stuff. I prefer to use Confluence to write it down. So Atlassian, that's the tool I'm used to, but that's not the only one. You have many others you can use. That's an important step, documentation. And before we continue, I want to bring to you guys another quote. That's for Eddie O. He's an engineer at Google, and he says, every developer has at least one personal project under their belt. It's born out of frustration, curiosity, or in the middle of the night when they can't sleep. And it evolves like we do. So he says the projects are going to evolve the same way we do as human beings. By the way, that's a good guy to follow if you find him on internet. His name is Eddie Osmani. He always brings some good things. YouTube channel, his personal page. Follow him. I do recommend. Now that you have a roadmap to start your project, did you come up with some idea? Do you know what you're going to start to be doing? Or have you already started on something? Share that with us. Let's brainstorm together. Put that in the comments. People are going to help you in the comments. Put your idea in there and say that's going to be the first step. On the ideation phase, put a comment in this video and let people tell you if it's a good idea or not, if it's going to be useful for someone else. All right, that's the journey. Let's try to summarize that. So first, you're going to come up with a simple idea. Remember, simple. Then you're going to have a clear scope. Second step. After having a clear scope, you're going to have a basic design. Try to come up with some sketch of what you're going to build. Then you're going to choose your tech stack. Which language we're going to create. What is the architecture of thing. Then you're going to code your core functionality. Remember the core functionality first. Then you're going to search and learn as you go and keep doing your system, keep doing your code. Don't forget the version control in that. And then you're going to iterate and refine your project up to the point you can deploy that. And then you're going to deploy it and seek for feedback. When you seek for feedback, you're going to be continuously learning and continuously iterating with your project. And obviously, don't forget to document your journey. That's the summary of the journey of creating your personal project. And before we wrap up, I want to challenge you. In the next week, go out there, come up with an idea, start your project, start coding, and come back to this video. Come back to here and tell us in the comments what you are doing. Make a public commitment. Be accountable for what you are proposing to yourself to do. Be accountable for that. Come back to this video and tell everyone, I'm doing this project. That's going to help even you, and it can help someone else. It's going to encourage someone else as well. So just before we go, I want to bring a last quote for you. You learn so much more when you are building something you are passionate about. Personal projects push your boundaries, test your skills, and amplify your knowledge. That one is from Kent C. Dodds. He's a software engineer, and an educator as well. That's another good guy to follow if you find him on internet, YouTube channel, whatever. So guys, I hope you got some insights today. I hope you have learned from this video. I hope you have learned something. And I hope you don't wait any further. Doesn't matter your current technical level. Start your personal project right now. Start doing that. Don't wait anymore. It's going to bring you the experience you need. Remember, I've been always talking about the 3 pillars to become a good software developer. One is the technical knowledge. That's the one most of people know and the one almost everyone pursue. But people neglect the other 2 ones, which are the experience and the community, the involvement with the community and the experience. And this is a good chance to get experience. So don't wait any time more. Don't waste any more time. Start that right now. So if you find it useful, guys, please share with someone. If you think someone is going to benefit from this video, share that. Share this knowledge. Don't forget to leave your like in this video. Subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe, that motivates me to create more content like that. I can help you. You guys can help me. So that's all for today, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.